Well, this is the Sunday edition of Weather to Watch. I have another revised Thanksgiving forecast, as that is coming up in just a few days. We'll talk about the day before, the travel day Wednesday, and actually take a peek at Thanksgiving as well. First, let's just review what's going on in the country as a whole. Got a couple of different ways we can do that. First of all, and what I usually show is the lower 48 satellite loop. This time the sun is setting across the U.S. We have visible satellite over here, and we have infrared satellite sensing clouds, inferring clouds over here. What catches your attention, obviously, is this big swirl in the clouds right here. The center of that swirl appears to be just located over South Colorado, and that's exactly what the 500 millibar analysis shows. A little low right there. What is kind of a medium size wave. It's not really a short wave, but it's taking up a lot of real estate here in the southwest, and it's you can just see the clouds are surging out ahead of these upper level winds. Drier air moving in here. A couple of thunderstorms we'll look at here, and eventually this is going to ring out some pretty good rains in this area here. If we take a look at the loop at 5 o'clock here, just kind of doing the highlights here, showing some wind flow and some temperatures. So the center of this high is right about over Indianapolis, and now we're getting what is called the return flow on the western side of the high, and that is bringing temperatures back up into the 50s across the area. I forgot to mention, too, and when I was showing you the satellite loop, there was a cloud bank that burned off, and finally we lost that in Missouri. If you were live in Missouri and even parts of adjacent states, we were socked in there for a little bit before it finally cleared. Anyway, here's the surface map. On Sunday, we have a little wave, which the nickname for a small little area of low pressure there in Georgia. We have a warm front moving through Texas that may have implications for severe weather. Another warm front moving across the northern plains. Now, this front means business. This is a pretty substantial push of cool air that will allow snow to fall in this area in the upcoming days. I'll highlight that here in a minute. One last thing we'll do is take a look at the radar loop. I believe this was frozen, about 5:15 or so. You see a few active severe thunderstorm warnings around the Midland area and points off to the north up to Lubbock. This rain and thunderstorm activity so far has not been severe. But let's take a look at what the Storm Prediction Center thinks about the severe weather potential. Well, the SPC, Storm Prediction Center, has a level 2 out of 5, a threat for severe weather right around those areas where you saw the developing thunderstorms right in this area here. So that implies that they will grow a little bit as they move up toward Abilene and San Angelo during the evening hours. There is also a tornado risk with this, not real high, but 2% chance in the core of that threat area, which does include the Midland and Odessa area and any place where those thunderstorms haven't gotten to yet. So they were basically here. So anything in this part of that green area is still under the gun. We can look at NATOcast. It does print a little small 2 to 3% area down there in that same general region for the remainder of this evening. Now, this shifts a little bit. We haven't talked about this a whole lot lately. Two slight risks, the yellow, in a row like this, but it's happening. On Monday, they have a slight risk of storms from South Arkansas, severe storms that is, from South Arkansas through Shreveport down almost to Austin, Texas. And again, that would be for Monday. There's also heavy rain associated with this. Let's take a look. This is all rain down here. This is coastal rain and mountain snow in the northwest, mostly in Washington, parts of Oregon. And then most of this is going to be in the form of snow. And you can see something going on right here. We'll take a closer look at that when we talk about snow here in a minute. If we focus just on rainfall, precipitation. Remember, this says precipitation, by the way. This forecast doesn't really make an attempt to differentiate between snow and rain or any other types of precipitation. Just so you know, it's melted down. But this is all rain here. So the 2-inch area would be this maroon color here, and that's southeast Oklahoma, almost down to the Dallas area. And there is a flood watch in effect for that very area, just Dallas and points north. But I don't think it officially goes up into Oklahoma where some of the heavy rain was forecast, but it does go back down to San Angelo and Abilene, no doubt, as some of these storms out here begin to grow and morph into a more solid line of storms. In terms of flash flooding, there is a chance, a slight chance, that's the yellow. This is tonight, and then basically this translates eastward, I guess I should say. And this is just if the chance of flash flood guidance being exceeded within a 0.2 25 miles around a point. So that's this area right here. So you can kind of see that heavy rain area shifting in that direction. Looking up in the northwest, the yellows and the kind of orange colors are anywhere from 4 to 8 inches of liquid precipitation. That implies pretty good snows in the Cascades and other higher areas of the Pacific Northwest, including northern Idaho and even parts of Montana, the northern Rockies as well. Precipitation, generally speaking, from 6 to 10 days, which starts Saturday, the Saturday of Thanksgiving weekend, through that following week, looks pretty high here. The confidence is pretty high of precipitation. Again, doesn't differentiate between rain and snow, but some of this is likely to be snow, I think. Let's take a look at those Thanksgiving forecasts. Well, on Wednesday, travel day, if you're flying somewhere, windy conditions. The wind gusts pretty strong from the Dakotas and Nebraska straight east through the Midwest here, including Chicago and Detroit and just about over to Pittsburgh as well. And on the other highlight reel for Wednesday, we have this snow area here. Most of this is a clipper system. I'll talk more about that in a second. And then we have some mountain snows there in Washington, Idaho, and Montana. If we look at those wind gusts, this is a peak over a 24-hour period centered on Wednesday. You see some 54-mile-per-hour wind gusts here, upper 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Again, that could affect travel. If you happen to be traveling by RV, that's a concern for you. I'll just give this a real wide kind of glance here, wide look, and I'll zero in on this in a minute, but you can definitely see there's snow at work here on Wednesday in the UP of Michigan. Duluth would be probably one of the bigger cities that would get in on the snow. I don't think Minneapolis will, and we have, again, some scattered activity in the northwest. Temperatures will be colder. The blue and the green is the freezing line, so below freezing in much of South Dakota, all of North Dakota, a big chunk of Minnesota. Meanwhile, balmy in Florida with highs in the 80s on Wednesday. And then precipitation-wise, this is liquid. Now, this is snow. We already covered that. So is there any liquid precipitation? Maybe a little bit in Georgia, and again in the lower elevations of the northwest, and that's it. Now, fast-forwarding to the actual Turkey Day itself, Thanksgiving, we have windy conditions basically shifting east a little bit. I'll show you those wind gusts that do include Milwaukee at 50 miles per hour at some point during the afternoon. So, yeah, if you're flying in and out of the O'Hare hub, either yesterday, the day before that, Wednesday, or this day, Thanksgiving, Thursday, it might be somewhat of a bumpy ride, may cause a delay or two. The snow area this one shifts east, becomes a little bit of lake effect snow. There's reason to believe that these lake effect snows here probably won't be too intense, but there's also that clipper system. So this is two things going on here. Two different types of snow are being forecast here. So if we just look at the broad snowfall for Thanksgiving, we see these little tiny lake effect bands, not real heavy, but it does get pretty heavy in the UP of Michigan. And finally on Thanksgiving, the high temperatures will be cold. Chicago barely getting above freezing, and that cold air moving more into Wisconsin and Minnesota. Let's take a closer look at the snow. Well, we have this fast-moving low. This is just all the models contributing, and we just do this by time intervals. So you can see they're all clustered around that solution. Then the blue indicates the 26th. Then so you can see this fast-moving system moving through here. As far as snow forecast, Weather Service is saying 3 to 4 inches in North Dakota and maybe parts of Montana. That's about it. Now, again, this is a clipper system that's moving like this. So sure enough, there's a heavy snow threat on Wednesday. We covered that on the travel forecast for Wednesday, but this area right here, including Duluth, parts of the UP, might have some heavy snow to contend with, 4 inches or more. And going way out with the model, this is basically just a slight risk, which is a 20 to 40% chance of heavier snows in these areas up here, beginning on the 1st of December and going through the 7th. So one more mild day. Here's the high temperature forecast on Monday. The actual numbers are the highs, and then the colors are above or below normal. So still pretty toasty in Minneapolis, St. Paul, Eau Claire, still pretty warm. But then a drastic change with that low moving along and a cold front sweeping at the tail end of it. So we go into rapidly cooling conditions in the central plains here. And pretty warm still out ahead of that low in the east. And then on Friday, a big area of cool air just kind of slides in this general direction. And speaking of slides, you can kind of see it by looking at the 6 to 10 day outlook. This is the Saturday beginning on the holiday weekend after Thanksgiving and going through Wednesday. Pretty high confidence of below normal temperatures through that entire period. And even if we go beyond that and just take the average of Monday through Sunday, it's still a pretty high confidence of the northern plains being cool. So there's lots of speculation being fueled by random model guidance that there's some heavy snow event hidden in this. And again, just because it gets cold in the northern plains doesn't necessarily mean it's going to snow. But thanks for watching this edition of Weather to Watch. It comes out every other day, or as the weather necessitates. Please remember to share this with your friends, subscribe to the channel, or at the very least, like what you just watched. Thanks.